is, the way we structured the evening was, I guess we put together a presentation just to talk about technologies and how they've really evolved over even the past 2-3 years to have features, whether it's Mac, PC, Chrome, built into them to really work with all types of learners, all types of people, all types of way people want to interact with them. Like the idea of human-computer interaction interface has really been this growing field that started out at the university level, and Carnegie Mellon as a whole, and MIT both have a whole divisions and majors in human-computer interaction that involve psychology and computer programming and all these things. And those people have now since graduated with PhDs and now are working for Apple and Microsoft. And both of those places, Microsoft has their garage, that's where their dictate came from and their translate came from, and all these features that are now built into the PCs, and these are in the Surface Go's that our students have, and then in our iPads, which are in the through Apple, that are in the iPads that we have. So we wanted to go over some of those things and talk about that. But I think before we start, we want to know, because we could tailor this a little bit more about what grade levels your kids are in, as we're thinking about what we're doing.
Sure. I don't think we've met. I'm Kate Rainbow. We're new to the district. My son's at Grafflin. He's in 3rd grade.
I also have a 3rd grade son at Grafflin. Welcome. And I have a 5th grade son here and a 7th grade daughter. I have a 5th grade daughter at Seven Bridges, and then 3rd grade at West Orchard, and one that'll be in kindergarten next year.
Great.
That's so exciting. Sorry, my heart is always in kindergarten.
7th grade and an 11th grade.
Great. So it's great that there are 2nd, 3rd, 4th graders, right? So that we have students have access to iPads, and then 5th grade graders, we have the Surface Go's that go home. So one of the things, I'm going to make it up because this is, so one of the things that I was thinking of is like sort of like how I live my life and how technology has changed that. And so like one of the biggest things that might seem weird is my app-enabled toothbrush. Like that honestly, like I get data on my brushing on a daily basis. And I get an alert, I mean, Charlotte, right? It's the...
That's not the weird part. The weird part is I get the data too.
That's the weird part, right. But honestly, like, I'm recording this. It's useful, right? It's really useful, and it's also like that late night you get home, and like it knows that if I'm taking off my watch, to send an alert to me, like you're going to bed, you forgot to brush your teeth, right? So like that's a tech yes, depends on the night. But I think about all of the things that I have I do a lot. Like I text a lot, and honestly, like I've been getting some thumb pain, but now I've been doing a lot more dictation, and basically dictate almost all of my texts at this point, right? If I'm by myself or into the watch, and it's near perfect, right? So like that's a technology that I use. As those who know me well, I get distracted really easily, but like I know the alerts to put things into do not disturb mode, so that I can make sure that I pay attention, right? Like these are all pieces. And then another big and technology that I'm just learning about is all of these health features that are on your iPhone built in, and Apple Watches that monitor your heart rhythms and your heart rate and your exercise and your standing. Like I get alerts. I got 3 alerts to stand up today, right? Which is like, that's not a good day, right? And and the other thing that I have a real challenge with is cooking, and like keeping an Alexa and an Echo show in the kitchen with recipes and proportions, and being able to ask it how many cups are in, how many tablespoons are in a cup, just like really easily to be able to do things. Like this is the world that we live in, right? And I was a struggling reader since I was a kid, and our world, there's a lot of texts that we're reading, and all I do in my car is listen to Audible books and podcasts, right? And even there are times where I'll use the New York Times, like a New Yorker article screen reader, and play it in the car and have it play an entire article while I'm driving to work, right? So like these are all things that are available to all of us in our day that have really like enriched our lives, and our kids have access to all of these technologies.
And so I think what's exciting about what Josh was just sharing, so when I started here in Chapel Hill, I started as a special education teacher. And then I became an instructional technology coach. And I'm not exactly sure what my title is now, but it's somewhere around there. But I'm a staff developer. Most of my work is on technology and innovation, and people often ask me, how did you go from special education to technology? And to me, there's no seams between the two. To me, I think that the features that are built into our devices now and the access that our iPads and our Surface Goes provide our students, especially our students with disabilities, all of our students, but especially our students with disabilities, it really provides access to all of our curriculum in really interesting, creative ways that when I was a special ed teacher in the classroom with students, we didn't have those options, right? So with the support of technology and some more specific assistive technologies that like students, that any of us can use, but students might need in particular based on who they are as learners, the combination of them really allows for such strong access to our curriculum that I wish when I was in the classroom that I had available to me. And so that's one of the reasons that I love my job and I love supporting teachers and integrating technology into their classrooms. Sorry, my contacts being wonky. Is because I really feel like our technology is meeting the needs of all of our learners and has the potential to support everyone. And some of the tools that Josh and I are going to show you tonight are specifically called like accessibility features or assistive technologies, and some of it is just educational technology, right? Some of it is just not as specific, but all of it is accessible to everyone, right? Josh was talking about alerts and reminders. I used to, as a special ed teacher, I would have timers, sand timers for students to move on. I don't need to do that anymore because I set their iPad to vibrate when they need to move on to the next task, right? So it's less intrusive, it's more, right? It's more personalized, it's not as visible to other students, and kids can customize it, right? As they get to learn who they are as learners and what they need, these tools are going to be with them always. They're not going to carry a sand timer in their pocket, but they are going to have their phone to do those reminders and those alerts. So I think that's what's really important is that when working in classrooms, we really focus on tools that they're going to have access to forever, right? Things that they're going to have access to moving forward so they can help themselves and become more independent.
So,
Josh has a cute video.
yeah.
Being able to read and write effectively and independently is important to student success. For some students, difficulties with reading and writing can be a barrier to learning. That's where Assistive Technology for Learning, or ATL, comes in. Assistive technology for learning helps students work around their learning challenges and build on their strengths. Increasingly, technologies that were once considered assistive technologies, like word prediction, text-to-speech, or speech recognition, are now part of everyday life and can be used by anyone. This is blurring the line between assistive technology for students who need specialized supports and educational technologies that are available for all students. Even with the greater availability of technologies in the classroom, a small number of students still need additional technologies and specialized supports to more fully participate in learning. How do you decide what assistive technology for learning will most effectively meet the needs of an individual student? You decide through a collaborative team effort. The SET framework, developed by educational consultant Joy Zabala, is a strategy that teams can use to explore key questions for making ATL decisions. SET stands for Student, Environment, Task, and Tools. Teams need to first consider the student. What are the needs of the student? What are the student's related strengths and challenges? Next, the team needs to think about the student's current learning environment. Which supports and resources, such as access to certain technologies and knowledgeable staff, are available in the school? What is available to support students' learning at home? Next, the team looks at the kind of learning tasks the student may be struggling with. For example, in typical class writing assignments, what part of the task does the student need extra support for? Is it the physical act of writing? Finding the right word? Organizing ideas? Spelling? The final T in the SET framework is tools. At this stage, the team is ready to explore what specialized tools and related strategies could make a difference for this student. An essential part of making sure that technology is the best fit for the student is to trial the technology. In other words, have the student actually use the technology for the targeted learning task for a sustained period of time. This trial is an opportunity to collect data on how effective the technology is for the student and how the student feels about using the technology. The length of the trial can vary depending on the student and the complexity of the technology. Every learner is different, so it's important to ensure that the technology is well matched to the student's individual strengths, learning needs, and preferences. How well assistive technology works for an individual student depends on a number of factors. 1. There needs to be training and support in the use of the technology for the student and for teachers and other school staff working with the student. 2. Teachers need to integrate the use of the assistive technology into learning activities in effective and meaningful ways. 3. The student must also be willing to use the technology and believe that it could make a difference to their learning and independence. Too often, an assistive technology is abandoned before it has a chance to make a real difference for a student. There may be different reasons for this, but it's often because there isn't enough training and support at the beginning. Finding the right assistive technology for learning is not a one-time event. It is an ongoing process that will evolve throughout a student's school career and beyond. Different assistive technologies may be needed as learning demands change from grade level to grade level, and from one learning environment to the next. As new technologies emerge each year, there will also be new and different solutions to consider. Assistive technology can truly be life-changing for a student. It can reduce barriers to reading and writing and give students the support they need to be successful and engaged learners. For more information on supporting every student, visit the Alberta Education website.
So this came out of Alberta, Canada, and I was watching it, and what I was struck by was that, like, the pieces of it make sense, right? Like that we need to make sure that the teachers have training, that the kids have training with it, that we identify which assistive technologies are and which pieces of it are useful for that student, right? And it's really individualized. And then the other piece of it was that, like, the technology is constantly changing, right? Like, even that was from 2 years ago. You saw a lot of, even just 2 years ago, you saw a lot of their animations were bigger technologies. But there are so many now that are so low profile, easy to implement, easy to use, that we want to try out. And just thought it was a good just framework that they've thought about and that we've been thinking about, that we've been working like as we make some decisions with what we're going to try with people, and we want to try things out and keep with it. It's important.
And
So,
so
yeah.
both Microsoft and Apple have really given students the opportunity to diversify the way that they share what they know and what they're learning. And I just put the icons up there, and on the next slide we have the Microsoft version of the same thing, basically the camera, the video camera, the drawing tool, and the voice recorder. And to me, as a special education teacher, I think those are 4 of the most powerful tools that are already built into your student's device. One, because note-taking in today's world doesn't look like the note-taking of when I was in high school, right? Like, it's like note-taking now, you go to a conference now and everyone's snapping photos, right, of the slides. Like, that's modern-day note-taking, right? Like, and I'm not saying that students don't need to know how to write and they don't need to know it, right? But there are variations of that, and some students taking a photo of whatever the presentation is, or right, is going to be the way that they process that learning or capture it. But it's also a way that they capture their own learning, right? Taking a picture of, a couple slides later, I have a picture, you might advance a little bit. I have a picture of a student, this all the way, so, nope, one back. The student all the way to the right, they're doing this like weights and measurements, and it's a 3rd grade classroom, and he's taking a picture of that experiment or process, and I don't know if it's math or science, right? But he's capturing his learning, and then he uploaded it to Seesaw and used a voice recording to explain what happened and why whatever happened, right? And so when I went to school, and I'm sure most of you, like the only way that you were able to show what you knew was by writing it down on a worksheet, right? And so this student has the ability to take a photo of it, take a video of it, capture it with his oral language, right? The students also have the ability to draw what they see and what they know and what they're learning and what they're processing. We have, there's a lot of research on doodling right now and how powerful it is and how much it actually helps kids synthesize, right? And when I was in school, if you were doodling, it was like you're not paying attention, right? But now we know so much more about how the brain works, right? Kids have access to these drawing tools all the time, and marking up pictures and just drawing, and so it really speaks to the parameters of the qualities of universal design for learning, right? Like these 4 tools make their input and their output more accessible, right? It's more personalized. Students can capture what the teacher's teaching, and they can show what they know. Just with these 4 tools. So if I do any professional development with teachers, it's always integrating any of these tools, if not multiples of them, because I think it helps all students access what they're learning. And Microsoft has the same tools.
Which is, again, all
They just
built
look-
in, right? So they built it into their Office 365 suite, and with video, film, built in with OneNote, with Cortana, and with the microphone. It's all of the same analogy to everything that Ellen just said. We have a high school math teacher who's just beginning experiment with Surface Goes in OneNote and having students take notes still via pen and still writing down, but then storing it digitally onto OneNote, and having students take notes, paper and pen, and capturing those images of it and then marking up those images. So, so it's utilizing the technology in a way to enhance what we know are already really good learning practices, right? And I think if there are students that writing is an issue, there's math type on everything, and they could type out their equations and they could type out their graphs, right? Like, so there's all different ways to access the information. So both of them are pretty analogous situations. And like when you think about, I mean, we've gone through this here, right? All the different ways that the technology and the assistive technologies can help our students with organization, with mind mapping, with communication, with reading, with hearing, with vision, right? All these pieces really help in the learning process. And then, and Ellen, you put just some examples.
These are without even thinking about it or digging deeply, and these are what are some, not even all, of what's built in. I mean, these are not even scratching the surface of what's built into the student iPad. And your phone, by the way. All of these same tools and the Surface Gos, right? All of these tools can be accessed on any of the devices that they have, and this literally is not just scratching the surface. And we were going to show you some of them today, but I want, because we're such a small group, like we can tailor.
So you're a third grader in Miss McNally's class. And you figure out, I need the magnifying and this, all these settings throughout the year.
Sure.
Are those then saved in profile? So when you come back in fourth grade, when you log on, I logged on as John Smith. Do they get pushed back down?
No,
but.
So how does it move with the child, I guess?
Right. I mean, unfortunately, the settings are device-specific settings.
Okay.
So it would be something that, like, if a student knows that the magnifier is really a helpful tool, that they would, we would have to return on, right? But the student can turn that on, or the adult, right? And so if they're, it would be up to the adult to document, like, that the student used the magnifier tool, or the voice recorder, or whatever, as that was really helpful for them. So
does that go into, if a child has an IEP, does it go to an IEP, or would it go into, if it's building level? I'm just wondering how, because each year you kind of feel like you're starting over a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, if it is something that helps the student, and a student has an IEP, it would absolutely go into their accommodations. Otherwise, if they don't have an IEP, then I think that's something that, like, the teacher would communicate to the next year's teacher, and put in their reports as they would.
So it's device driven, it's not log.
Right.
Yeah.
And at the middle school, they're going to keep the same device for the 4 years. So they won't, it'll be
that's good.
So it'll be the same device.
Okay.
Cool. So that's at the elementary school, like, anything you've done on Seesaw, do you still have access to
Yeah,
that?
absolutely.
That's
Even though it's
Absolutely.
different?
Yeah, it's all
Okay,
same.
Because their username for that app stays the same. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's a portfolio of their work over the 5 years
Right.
that they're in elementary
Yeah.
school.
Questions before we give?
So are there, from the list that was, we showed a second ago, is there anything that, like, kind of stands out to you as a tool that you're interested in, that you want to see? Because, I mean, we can go through all of them, but if there's ones that are the most, like, standing out to you, we can start with those.
I'm interested in screening. What it sounds like.
Great. Yeah?
The screen?
Yeah, okay. And
I'm interested in kind of how it works in the classroom.
the screen.
Well, there's like dictation tools or something. Are they talking into a mic, or is that, how does it work with other kids who are not using the tools?
That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's probably just accepted by their peers that
There's so much
There's so much of it
Yeah.
There's
happening.
so much
Yeah.
voice recording going on for all different reasons,
that's cool.
that it's not at all bizarre for someone to be dictating.
I think we as parents, like as adults, find it odd, like if somebody's standing in the corner talking, we're not used to it.
Yeah.
It's every day, right?
And
And they're wearing headphones that have
have
The
a
mic.
mic.
the mics on it, so,
Yeah.
which is,
All elementary school kids have been asked to, I
Yeah.
believe, have been asked
I
to
just-
buy a headphones with a mic.
Middle school, they have the
Right.
buds.
Yeah.
which I think is usually a little bit more, if they have the headphone in, right, like even when you see people walking on the street with headphones in,
Yeah.
like usually it's a little bit more, if they're just talking instead.
So we could start with the screen reader and the dictation tool for sure.
There may be word projection too.
Oh, yeah. Great.
Do you want to start on the?
Yeah, are you
Apple
okay if we
or-
start on the iPad?
Yeah, we'll start on the iPad.
Okay, so all of the accessibility tools for Apple are under, like if you go to your settings, it just shifted with the new update from iOS 12 to iOS 13. I was like, whoa, where are they, right? I had no idea. But it shifted, it used to be right under the general, but now it has its own icon, accessibility. So most of the ones that I'm going to show you tonight are listed on, this is how you'll find them. Go to settings, go to accessibility. But some of them are in a different place, and I'll show you that too. So if you don't know how to get to them. And the screen kind of, so it looks like this, right on, in the category under general, if you, can I make this bigger? In the category under general, it's the accessibility, so it's only like 3 or 4 under, right? And it's on your iPhones also, it's the same, I switched to the next slide. It's, so if you want to like play along, you feel free to play along. So screen reader, I'm going to go into I should be using my larger iPad. I'm going to go into settings, into general and accessibility. And screen reader, it just changed its name. It used to be called screen reader, and now it's called spoken content. So under accessibility, you have spoken content. And I'm going to show you 2 different spoken content features. And I tell teachers when I show them these 2 tools that we have to be thoughtful about who's getting these tools. So the 2 that I have turned on are speak selection and speak screen. So you just toggle them on with the green over there. And speak selection gives you the option to speak aloud a piece of text that's highlighted. Speak screen speaks everything on the screen. So I'll show you both of those different options. Okay, so this is a poem. So this is a poem. So speak screen speaks everything on the screen. So it's a 2-finger swipe down, and it gives you this. I don't know if my volume's up.
By Robin Robertson. PBS Spring Recommendation published by Picador.
So it gives you that controller that eventually hides
Second
there.
prize Jacqueline SAPHRA. Women's Poetry Competition winners announced.
But it reads everything that's on the screen. And it highlights it, right? And with this screen, I'm going to pause that. You can change the speed of it. You can change the voice that you're hearing, right? If that's on a voice that's comfortable for you, you can customize that. You could rewind, go back. You could finger point to what? To exactly where did it go?
Posted on February 20th.
Okay, that one's not working for me right now. But you get the idea for speak screen. It'll read everything that's on the screen. It's very similar to the pros and cons. It speaks everything. So if there's an ad on the side, it's going to speak that too, right? But what it does is, I can show you how to change that to get the ads away. Also, there's a tool in Safari that will take the ads away from any website, which is also really cool. But you can totally customize that voice and the speed and everything. Speak selection. This is an image. So I don't know if it'll work. Hold on, let me pull up a different website. Dogo News is one of my favorites. It's like a kid's news site. But speak selection is, say a student's reading something online, whether it's a book, whether it's an article, and they don't know how to pronounce that one word or this. They don't know what that phrase is. Maybe it's a country name. Maybe it's someone's, proper noun. It gives you the selection. It populates this black box above with speak, which wasn't there before I toggled it on.
Team led by the university.
And it'll read just what you needed help with. So students are using this feature when they're even on grade level readers are using this feature when they come across a word that they just don't know. It's much faster, and especially when they're proper nouns or anything like that that maybe can't be decoded, to just hear it and move on, right? So this is a feature that we have most students turn on. What are you doing back there? It's a different feature. That's the
Screen capture.
So the two are a little bit different, right? Speak, this option is one that we have a lot of students turn on. The speak screen is a more specific kind of tool.
And so if it's in their settings, then they just do the 2-finger swipe down?
Yeah, 2 fingers. Once it's turned on, 2 fingers swipe down. And really quickly, the way that you, I never knew about this before, but you know the A's that are in the search bar? That's actually reader view. If you have that on a site, you could change to reader view. And what it does is it takes away all the ads, and it allows you to make the text smaller or bigger. It also allows you to change the color background. So for some students, reading black on white is really challenging. So you can change it to a more like a beige or a gray. You could change the text color to a blue, or like something that's, some kids go overboard with that and spend like the entire period making their font all cool. But for students that need it, this is really helpful. And a lot of students use reader view just because the ads are distracting, right? Not even for the features of making the text bigger or smaller or changing the background, but just to get rid of the ads. And then when you use speak screen, so sometimes we have to layer the tools on top of each other. Sometimes layering the tools on top of each other are even more assistive. And Microsoft has similar.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally parallel things, right? So this is configured exactly like the Surface goes. It's just a bigger screen. I just brought this one so that we could see. So here, Microsoft Word document, they've got on it, there are learning tools.
Is it the same with Google too?
Yeah.
So I feel like middle school they use a lot of Google.
Yeah.
Everything's in Google Drive. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I
So
think that. Well, so the Google Drive piece of it, it would be the same thing here. I just lost my learning tools. Oh.
So for Google and middle school, we have Snap and Read to do that.
Right.
Like if they're on a web-based product, Snap and Read is the way to go to read aloud, and that's just an extension in Chrome.
Is that enabled or do we have to enable it for them?
You just have to download it.
And it's on their Chrome
Yeah, it's in their Chrome web browser.
web browser. We pushed it out.
You just have to log
So
into it.
Yeah. So Microsoft has learning tools in Word, which there's a few things you could do. One is you could change the column width if you want something that's more narrow, if you want it very narrow, so that if there's the way that you're typing or the way that you're writing, if you're someone that needs to see something that's smaller. The other piece of it, back to learning tools, is I have the syllables on. So right now, let me just change the column width so it's a little bit moderate here. As they're reading, you could see, like, I hear America singing, right? Like there's dots in between every syllable. So it changes it so that a student can read it in
That's
there.
the immersive reader, right?
No, this is just built into learning tools in Microsoft Office 365, right?
Microsoft would be
And then if there's someone that needs text spacing, so if you need to view it and you need your text spacing, and you could actually change the way this looks. And then inside of it, also in learning tools, they've added a read aloud. And here you'll get oh, you know what it is.
As he measures his plank or beat.
Right.
The mason singing this as he makes ready for work.
So here,
or leaves off work.
it'll be,
And singing what the
I could pause it, I could change how fast it is, I could change the voice if I want zeroed us off.
Can you record somebody else's voice?
On the steamboat deck.
So all of this built right into Microsoft Office, right? So if anybody, as you're reading something, so that's part of as you're reading a Word document, in a PowerPoint, in any Microsoft Office 365 on OneNote, more and more teachers are using. So then, of course, the other piece of it, if I go to new, I'm just going to go to blank document. In the home, there's dictate. So here, I've actually got my learning. I'm going to close my learning tools here. Home, actually my dictate is on. I have it on. It's just dictating everything that I'm saying right now. It's putting it on a screen.
What if you're reading from internet? You have to go that to the board.
Nope. So for here, let me turn the dictate off. So right now, I'm going to turn dictate off. So this is just for Word and for Office things. Just like in Apple on the Edge browser, so I've loaded up how Jello modes claim their spot on the American table. Good, right? Right, that's very important.
Why?
I found like I was like, what article can I look that's the least controversial, right? So this is what I found. So just like here, right? Like New York Times has pictures, it's got words. There's a reading mode, which is just by pressing the little book, and it puts it into a reading mode, just like on Safari or anything else. And it's got the exact same features. If I go into let me go back into reading mode. Let's tell me that reading mode is not available. Let's download it. Right, and this is the same thing also as the site needs to have it enabled. Most do, but here, so there are text options that just went away. You hover over here and get them out. I'm still learning how to get, there it is, text options. So here, just like in Safari, I could change it into a high contrast mode. So if I wanted to read it in dark mode, or I wanted it a little bit lighter, or I want to make the text bigger, that's there. And then also, it will read aloud.
Jello molds claim their spot on the American table. www.newyorktimes.com.
So
7 minutes read.
So
Quiver for the holidays. Festive.
well, I'd be really curious to see if it takes 7 minutes to read. So all of the same exact features are right there for access to record and to do. And then what they've done is those same learning tools that were in Word that we saw, white spacing, putting things through it, and they even have a grammar tool, which is going to help you improve your reading comprehension. So you could define words, there's a thesaurus, there's all these pieces that are built right into here. And there's also the one that I really like is line focus. So as I'm going through here, it's starting to track my reading so that I could be focused on just those 2 or 3 lines. And I can make it as narrow or as wide as I want to. So this is built right into Microsoft Edge and built right into Microsoft in Windows.
So if you're on the internet, you can use that on anything.
Yeah, on anything. So those are the analogous features. There are then, like you were talking about, I'm going to turn this off. And then there are pieces that are built directly into Windows. I just want to go from here into all settings. And then on here, there's Cortana, which allows you to select your notifications. And then there is, this is what you're seeing with your students also, is they're changing their backgrounds so that you can have different colors so that it's there. You could change your themes. And then you also, one of the things is changing the fonts that I find for some students is a lot more readable, right? So that you could be a lot more less distracted from there. So those are the same analogous tools that are on Apple, on our iPads or on our Surfaces.
And for the dictation tool on iPad, It's a little bit different. It is in general, but I mean, it is in settings, but it's not under accessibility. It's general and then keyboards. All students in the elementary schools have this feature turned on. And if you go all the way down to the bottom, you just turn on enable dictation. And when you do that, your on-screen keyboard has that little microphone button, and it allows for the dictation. And our kindergartners up through 4th grade are using that often. It's interesting because the teachers are realizing, like, sometimes I want to know, right? Like, typing is a skill that's sometimes hard, but I still want to get their ideas out written. So I'm just going to let them dictate it, right? So, like, where I sat through keyboarding class in middle school, right? You know, like, they're still able to communicate in written language, but through dictation. So it's actually pretty cool. And Heidi just emailed me an article the other day that Google is working with, because all these products have been, like, normed to a population of people that speak with a certain articulation. Google has started expanding and is focusing on students with Down syndrome and kind of like how their articulation patterns might be a little bit different. They're starting to study those and incorporate those into their dictation so they can translate their speech patterns into printed text, which is amazing.
Yeah, it is, because I mean, I think his articulation is fantastic, but it's still not what a typical student is, and it's hard for, you know, we spend a lot of time with Siri and trying to understand what he's saying, and
it's hard.
They're getting better and better each day.
And that's not just for students with Down syndrome, right?
Yeah.
Students that have articulation challenges, tools like this. Yeah, but that's where
the prediction comes in helpful.
The prediction comes in helpful, and
she'll know she's not saying her V's, and it'll show up as a T, and she can change it.
Yeah, and in situations like that, I often work with teachers, like, this is a great time for them to just do a voice memo, right? Voice memos are really easy, and so while if your objective is to capture the thinking of the student, right, and it doesn't have to be in printed text, could the student record their voice and submit that, right? So, because you could probably understand your son pretty clearly, even with his articulation difficulties. So a voice memo or a video recording helps to support and get across the same objective, right? If you want to understand why the science experiment did what it did, he can sit in front of a video camera and explain it. It doesn't have to always be in written text. So that's why I said those 4 tools are my favorite, because voice memos and videos are a great alternative for students who can't use the dictation. Dictation is not for everyone, right? For students who can't use the dictation because the technology hasn't caught up to all the boundaries of speech patterns, we can use some of those other tools.
And in both, like in Office 365 and Word, you can have some stuff that you dictate out in words, and then you could insert in a voice memo right into it, or insert a video right into it, or insert a picture right into it, so that you could have this hybridized media that you're using.
Yeah, but the elementary schools use Seesaw a lot in the classes. Voice recording, video recording, even when kids are commenting on each other's work, they have the option to type it, or they have the option to do an audio recording, right? So, like, all of these programs, one of the things that we look for in when we subscribe to programs that we're going to use district-wide is, does it have accessibility features? Does it have options for all students built into it? And if it doesn't, can we customize it, right? That's part of our screening process.
Yeah, and I think as students move on to the middle school and the high school, as more written text is part of submissions, having things that students can dictate into, using some grammar features, being able to decode text in ways and using the features to help that is crucially important. So, like, that's sort of our trajectory upward.
So I have a question. When you talk about text, so you have articles online,
Yeah.
but then you have, and I'm thinking for my daughter, audiobooks. Like what availability do we have for chapter books to be accessible for them to have them read too? I know I found stuff in the public library where I can get like 1 or 2 a month,
Yeah.
but does the district have anything?
Yeah. So that's a really good question. We have, Epic is a resource of books that we use often for our elementary students. And a lot of those, if they're not themselves audiobooks or read to me books, they can be overlaid with one of our screen readers to be read aloud, right? If a student is a student with a disability, all the special ed teachers can sign them up for a Bookshare account. So Bookshare is linked to the Library of Congress, and every student can be signed up by their special ed teacher if they have a disability. And Bookshare gives access to hundreds of books. And all of those, I don't know if all...
I guess I'm looking at more of like, a Beverly Cleary book we were looking for. We found a read aloud on like YouTube, but YouTube is filtered at school, so she couldn't listen to. So I eventually found it through the public library that I could get her on the site where she could use it at school and listen to the story.
And Overdrive, which they're beginning to use.
Maybe that's what I found it on.
You could get.
Use my public library account.
Yeah, and we're beginning to partner with the public library and get accounts at Bell and Seven Bridges.
Yeah.
You can get the book on there and use the screen readers on there if it's not the audiobook.
Right. Okay.
Right. So those are digital texts.
And our libraries in the district are starting to build their collection of ebooks.
Right.
Right. I know I was just chatting with Pam Shembry at the high school, and she's creating collections of ebooks and audiobooks for the students to.
And it used to be just a book on tape, right?
Right. And
it's like now we're trying to find that happy medium now so she could have a tablet book. Right.
Yeah, the Audible version, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Just looked up in Bookshare, Beverly Cleary,
Yeah.
and got 58 results, like all the books.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't get them because I don't have the access, but it looks like
No,
and
and so the library offers, I think, 2 borrows of audio. So for now,
I can get
Right.
we give her the 2 borrows of audiobooks, and she just takes them out under my account, and it links up on her circuit recorder here.
Yeah, but it's a good thing for us. We're moving more digitally for us to think
2
about.
months is not.
Yeah.
Right, but it's at least something so she could have that access to higher level reading.
Yeah.
When you're, reading at a lower level, which I think.
Right.
And Bookshare has those books. So as you like, Beverly Cleary is on here, Cam Jansen is on here, right? Like, there's a lot, and so this is specifically for students with disabilities. This website. So the special education teacher has to sign the student up to verify that they have a disability, a print-based, language-based disability. Print-based or language-based disability, and they could have access to hundreds of thousands of books.
So how would you get that, or how would you know that otherwise? Like, is that something that's new, or just
the special so the special ed teachers, we've shared Bookshare with all the special education teachers. It's one of those things we have to continue to remind them, because it's not part of like the normal everyday classroom functioning.
So like, it's, how do you know to ask if you need it?
That's a good question. I mean, I think it's just in conversation with the teacher, and if a student needs audiobooks or books read, then there are a lot of kids that are using it currently in district. So we have many kids signed up with accounts that are active.
Right. But if not, again, like as we're looking at Overdrive, and we're definitely going to implement it within the next few months. That's an application where students can basically borrow digital texts and read them on their Surface Goes, right? We're going to put an app on their Surface Goes that those can read aloud to students, right? Those have screen readers on them. It's not it's not an audio book in terms of like you're getting the nice British reader that read the book, right, and recorded it, but it does have a read aloud component that's synthetic, just like a screen reader.
Is there any scheduling tool or like I don't know, personalized daily schedule?
Yeah.
Is that possible?
Yeah, so I think on Canvas for a middle school student.
Second.
Second. So,
Yeah, you would take over. Yep.
So we can set, we have some students that have set reminders, and that's literally just in, there's a couple ways to do it. You would go to, I'm trying to think the best way to get to reminders. It would just be in the clock.
Yeah, to get to reminders, you could either go to the clock app or you could search for, I usually just search for reminders, right? And maybe I would add that to the.
So we have some students who set alarms for themselves, right? That they know they need a longer transition time before lunch, so they set an alarm to go off every day at 12:35, and that's when they should start packing up their stuff because they need to transition to lunch. There are reminders that you can add to your device. And so, as you can tell, I don't use reminders. Probably should. It would probably help my life. But the students can customize their device. It's their device for the year, so they can set reminders like bring home my snow boots, like take my, like whatever it is, and they can set it up on a schedule throughout the day. So I have to say this is not something that many students have used, but it is something that they can use.
I use location-based reminders, but that wouldn't be.
That's really helpful.
Right, like if I'm going to CVS, like an alert to remind me what I actually need. Right, so you could do that right. You could do that right in reminders.
Huh, I need that.
Yeah.
But yeah, reminders are a thing that we can set up for students.
But they have to go to the iPad to have this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's anything that they're doing on their iPad is educational, right? And so they're not playing games. They're not like just doodling, right? Like it is purposeful and meaningful screen time. But that being said, it is, for most classrooms, it's part of the classroom routine that like in the morning you take your iPad out. A lot of teachers have it like in a backpack on the seat or in a console on the center of the table, right? Their iPads are accessible because we want them to be a tool for kids to opt into, if just like a pencil, right? So some kids are going to take out a pencil and a notebook and other kids are going to do their thinking on their device, right? And we want that that use and that flow of use so that students can make choices about how they learn best and how they show their learning best. So their iPads in most classrooms in the elementary school, especially 2 through 4, are pretty easily accessible. And if they're not, right, whether it's in the center of the table or in the seat back of the chair.
Yeah. And so also we can teach them when it's appropriate not to be using technology, right? Like when pen and paper is something, or when it should be, right? So that we have that available as an educational tool.
And do they come with a keyboard?
Yes.
Yes. Their case is much better than mine. I love this. I love this for me, but not for 7-year-olds.
Yeah.
Right.
The ones that the 7-year-olds have, the kids have, they are like durable.
They're durable. We haven't lost
They're heavy. They're thick. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to try to break them in those cases.
And they do. Which is impressive.
Which is great, which is fun. Which is absolutely fun, yeah.
Josh and I always say we'd rather an iPad be broken because we know it's at least being used.
Yeah.
We have, I mean, we can keep going, but
Yeah.
are there other specific questions or tools that you're thinking about for your students?
I don't know. I'm just thinking like, sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, this is great, but like, I need more training just
So-
about what's available
Yeah.
and just so I can, because it isn't going to tell me, Mommy, I set a reminder. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
So I will tell you two things. One is both the Apple Store and the Microsoft Store offer much. They love sitting there talking about their features, teaching you how to use them.
Yeah.
The Apple Store, if you look at both in the Westchester and the Danbury store and a few others, if you just go onto their website, they have times that they do accessibility, things that are only showing all the features and everything. So those are good free resources. And if you just go online and you look at, and we put the websites that we'll link that we'll send out to all of you, but even if you just look at Apple accessibility, they have it, they've got iBooks that talk about everything. Microsoft has a full web page that's dedicated to all of the accessibility features that are available. Microsoft even breaks it down by need, so that if you're a student that needs this, this, and this, like here are some of the things that are available on our devices that are good. Yep, yeah, we put the links in the presentation that we'll send out to you. Yep.
Is that kind of coming along? So like if a teacher recognizes something students don't know, if they can look and
they look at that, and they'll email us. We send them out the website. We send out like weekly emails to teachers that say like, hey, look at this. So we're definitely, I will say, we're all learning as we're going, but and it's constantly evolving, but we're. Oh, there's no question. I mean, I think one of you was talking about their pointers were changed. I go to a class and I see then I talked to one kid, he had the narrator on, but only for certain situations because he knew that that's when he needed to trigger himself to pay more attention on his surface. So right, like they're learning and figuring these stuff out, faster than we are, but
They're not afraid.
Yeah, they're not afraid. You're not gonna break anything. That's always what I say to all the students and the teachers. Like, nothing's gonna break. The worst thing that happens is that we need to reset the device, which is not a big deal, and we never lose any data. And I'd be thrilled if that happened, if a student was experimenting with some features to make their learning better, and they wound up locking down the device for some reason, and we had to fix that. That would be the best day, right? So there's a ton of things that are coming out, right? Like even we were talking about Apple.
One of my favorite new features that just got added with this one of the recent updates is called Live Listen on Apple. I think it's the coolest thing. As a special ed teacher, I've had many students that needed like FM amplification systems, and like there are these like big systems that we have to rent. I think we rent them, and the teacher has to wear the thing around their neck and to amplify to the piece that the student is. And so Live Listen now, they literally turn on the feature of Live Listen. They keep their iPad on.
And keep an earbud in.
And they keep an AirPod.
One AirPod.
I think that there's like a Bose Bluetooth headset or an AirPod. They put in one, and it amplifies the primary voice in the classroom and quiets the background noise. So it is a personal amplification system. I don't know how any kid's gonna go to college without using that, right? Like, it's amazing, and all you need is AirPods, right?
He's getting his toothbrush to show us.
But right now there's only I know the AirPods work, and there's a couple other.
I was getting my toothbrush.
I don't know what the Microsoft version of that is, but
I don't know if it's. I mean, here's the thing: if it's announced for Apple 2 weeks ago, a week from now it'll be on the Surface. There's no question. But literally, they just have to put one.
They connect
Bose.
Bluetooth.
Yeah.
You haven't had to transition kids from Apple to Microsoft.
Yeah, we did.
We have.
Fourth
Yeah.
graders.
I have to say, I was nervous, right?
I would not be pleased if I had to transition.
Right. But the thing is
that
well, and they're just what we found this year in transitioning the fourth graders from the iPads to the Microsoft devices is that they recognize the tools that are consistent really quickly, and they code switch very easily, much easier on a device than they do even on many other tools. because everything has the graphic connection to it,
Right.
and so they were able to. There was not much of a lag time at all going from the iPad to the Surface. I was surprised, and I was worried about some of our students that like were really well versed on using the iPad, but because this is a touchscreen, because it's a tablet,
Yeah, it's a
it has
touchscreen, you
lot
just
of the
open up the
same
camera,
apps.
it's the same
The
apps,
Google apps are the
everything.
same on both,
Right.
right? So there's a lot of things that transition over very easily.
Yeah.
So middle school and high school use.
Middle school
It has a Surface.
Surface goes,
Okay.
and then the high school is bring your own device,
Okay.
and then
students
with a
choose.
variety of different things, variety of different types of devices to lend out if students need them. And that's purposeful, right? So that students are learning an Apple environment and a Google environment at elementary. They're keeping with the Google environment at middle school, along with learning a Microsoft environment. And then in high school, they're able to choose what's best for them. We're hearing from more and more businesses are moving back to Microsoft environments right now. That we're hearing because of the security features of the devices and things that are there. We're also hearing more and more colleges are moving back towards a Microsoft environment using OneNote. But there are still schools that are all Apple based, right? So sending kids off with a wide variety of knowledge is really important. And also to learn that like these are going to keep evolving. What I'm saying today, a month and a half from now or 2 years from now, we might have a totally different decision,
How
right?
do we know for each grade what kind of software it's using?
Yeah, so our elementary schools are entirely Apple based, and then our middle schools are entirely.
But we want to
Yeah.
know specifically which grade and which school. Is there information available we go on?
Yeah, so on the technology department in the CCSD website, we have information about that. But we are consistent across our 3 elementary schools and our 2 middle schools. So that the 3 elementary schools we have iPad 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade, and in K1.
Are you thinking more like the apps that they're
Or the apps that they're using, or the.
Right, like the software, which version of the software, so we can.
Yeah, we have that on the tech department.
If we want to know how to use that or something.
Sure, we have links on the tech department website to the apps. We're continually filling that out, but it's getting complete each day. But
Oh, okay,
yeah,
but
yeah.
we can find information.
Mhm. Yeah, and I'll put that as part of the links as part of what we send back to you.
Do you teach keyboarding?
We do.
Yeah.
It starts in 2nd grade, and students continually visit the keyboarding program, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade. Typing agent.
It's their homework a lot of times. Is
Right.
typing. It's like little activities. It's cute. They like it.
Good, yeah. It is a game-based typing program, because typing just on its own is kind of boring. But yeah, we do provide opportunities for students to learn typing.
Is there one person in each building who's, like, say you had a specific question at Grappling about what's going on? So is there like one tech resource? I know there's people working the computer labs, but is that the person to go to? Like if she wanted to ask something specific about the app, typing agent app or something,
I think the lab aide would be, at the elementary
lab.
schools, would be the most knowledgeable and the closest. They're in classrooms supporting teachers.
So like Grappling, that's Susan Fitzgerald?
Yeah.
You're Grappling or no? Yeah. So Susan
She
Fitzgerald.
would know the ins and outs.
Yeah.
Although your classroom teachers have are you
And they would-
in 2nd grade?
Maybe we just go to 2nd grade.
Yeah,
Go
and the
to
teacher.
The teacher.
Yeah.
You could just email the teacher.
Yeah. They're very knowledgeable, especially.
Is there like middle school or is there?
Yeah, so the lab aides at the middle school, and they're the resource for Canvas and for all of the Surface items. And then, so Tabitha Sasso, we have a technology and STEAM resource teacher who's been working with middle school teachers. We will make sure that her contact information goes in there.
But you can reach out to us at any
Yeah.
time.
Or else.
It's great. There's so much out there. I mean, it's
There's
amazing.
so
Yeah.
much. It's hard to keep up with, but it makes
Yeah.
it fun.
Right.
Yeah.
It makes it really fun. I mean,
Right.
when we found Live Listen, I was like, Josh,
Right.
bring in your AirPods.
Bring in your
I'm like, bring it in, I
Bring
want to
them
play
in.
with it.
Yeah.
But it,
And it works really, yeah.
it's it's constantly evolving. But what I love about it is that it makes the classroom so much more customizable for all of our students, especially our students who are struggling, right? We can customize their experience to amplify it for them, right? So that they can get the most out of their out of their time in the classroom, which is what makes these tools so invaluable.
And it was really cool I was in a 5th grade social studies classroom seeing some students reading text on paper, some reading it on a screen, some listening to a screen reader, some, right, like you had all these different options, but in the end, her goal was the content. And all students access that content, right? So in all different ways. And that's really, really exciting thing. Great. We are available. You can always contact us if we have any questions at any time about this. We know that this is all evolving, so we try to be on top of it. And like, it's always exciting when something new comes out, and we know of a student that has this need, and we can email those teachers and say like, hey, this new came out. So we're excited for this.
And we're doing specific training with the special education teachers, at least at the elementary level, on the Apple specific products and accessibility tools throughout this entire year. So we have a learning specialist from Apple that comes in with me, and we teach and demonstrate and show and all the accessibility tools. And this actually next week that our specialist is coming as well, and they're bringing case studies of students and profiles of students that we're going to help them troubleshoot and problem solve, like how can technology improve their learning experience. So so that's the ongoing work that we're doing with our special ed team.
Yeah, and the middle school reading teachers and special ed teachers have been working with specialists who specializes in Microsoft accessibility features. With them, she's on site once every other week usually, and they've all signed up to work with her, and I've been working with them as well.